Afternoon everyone. My name is Madhusudan Sarma and I am your faculty for economy. And in this video, I am going to discuss you the question paper of 2024 economy. So, in GS3 paper, there were 8 questions which were asked from the economy topic. So, that's why you can understand how much important is economy. However, the questions that were asked, all of them were those questions which were expected to be asked, were those questions which are very often debated, discussed, and most of the students must have studied about them. However, to write a good answer, you need not just know the topic that is being asked, but you should also have some value addition content. And economy means data. So if you have used enough data to substantiate the arguments given by you, you can expect a very good marks. And also there is another aspect is to understand what are the different parts of the question that should have been answered. So in this video analysis, we are going to see from where the questions were asked, why were they asked. We are also going to see what are the different parts of the question, what you should have written, or rather how you should have tackled introduction, body and conclusion, and what are the key points that should have been written. I will give you a lot of such data as well, which you should have written in your paper, and you can take a note of those data, compile those data as per the syllabus wherever you have compiled your study material, and you must memorize them. Also, we will see that in a lot of questions, the update has been asked, the status of some schemes have been asked. So, you need to update the data as well. For this, the current affair is very important. You should read the current affair, then keep on updating the data. Okay, so let's start the discussion. Let's start with the first question. Uh, So this was the first question which was asked. The question is about public expenditure on social services. This is the topic on which this question has been asked. Those of you who are watching it online, you must ask if you have any doubt, etc. I would be happy to reply your doubts. Those of you who will be watching this video in a recorded format later on, you should also ask your doubt in the comment section. I will definitely reply to all your queries. Okay, let's understand the question. Examine the pattern and trend of public expenditure. Public expenditure means the expenditure done by the government, including both central as well as a state government. Expenditure on social services in the post-reform period. Post-reform period means after 1992, after LPG reforms. Okay, in India. So first part of the question is simple, that what is the pattern and trend that is being followed with respect to the expenditure on social services. That's the first part. Second part is saying that to what extent, see this is a very important uh, directive which UPSC uses, to what extent this has been in consonance with achieving the objective of inclusive growth. So obviously, the expenditure on social services are done with the objective of achieving the inclusive growth. So, to what extent will always mean, see, here is 0, here is 100%. Practically, the achievement would lie somewhere in between. So, to what extent you must tell that yes, this is something that we have achieved, this is something which is yet to be achieved. Wherever this directive, there is another question also in the paper where this directive is given, you have to answer in this way. So now this part has two parts. The first is what we have achieved, and the second part is what is yet to be achieved in terms of inclusive growth. I hope it is clear. If you have any doubt, please ask. What should be the introduction? The introduction should be about the LPG reforms and social services. Like you can give some simple statement in the introduction that LPG reforms were aimed at increasing the private sector participation. However, a state took a major role towards social services, provisioning of social services. So private sector took care of the business after LPG reforms, and a state majorly focused on provisioning of social services. So this is something in this line you can link this public expenditure and LPG reforms both to build a context of the question. So this is how introduction should be. See, like usually then another idea of giving introduction is to write data etc., which is not very much suitable in this case. Why? Because the pattern and trend you will be anyway giving a lot of data etc. So that's why here the context is going to be more proper way of giving introduction. Okay. Now the next part is what is going to be the pattern and trend of public expenditure. So this is a question which is asked from economic survey. So because of these reason, economic survey is very important. You must read economic survey. In economic survey, various graphs, pattern, trends are always given, and the social services like health, education, poverty alleviation related schemes, all these things you must focus, like free drinking water. These are the social services. So economic survey covers them extensively, how these things are evolving. There are a few data that you must be using in terms of this expenditure. So public expenditure on social services have increased to 5 to 6% of GDP. It was 5 to 6% of GDP in 1990s, which has gone up to 7.8% of GDP in 2023-24. So, as a percentage of GDP, the expenditure on public services has increased. The next thing is that with respect to individual services also, you can write, or with respect to total budget, 26% of budget is on public services. And which are those public services? Like on education, the expenditure is 2.7% of GDP. On health, the public expenditure is 0.9% of GDP. In fact, in health, it was 0.9% of GDP in around 2000. Now it has increased to 1.9% of GDP in 2019. Okay, this is a latest data only. This is the latest one, 1.9% of GDP. So these are the data that you must write in your answer, that whether in education, whether in health, whether overall as percentage of GDP or in terms of the budget, there has been increment in public expenditure. So what is the overall pattern and trend? That the public expenditure on social services is increasing. Okay, any doubt? Then you can also mention about some schemes etc. that these are the schemes like Right to Education Act has been passed, Midday Meal scheme has started, National Food Security scheme has started, MG Narega has started. So because of these schemes also, the public expenditure has been increasing in public services. Now we shall move to the next part, that is to what extent this has been in consonance with achieving the objective of inclusive growth. So obviously our answer is going to revolve around that we have achieved to some extent inclusive growth. Like see, the second part we shall talk about output or outcome. First part was all about expenditure, which is input. In budgeting we study three type of budgeting: input budgeting, outcome budgeting. First part is about input budgeting, how much expenditure was done. Second part is about output and outcome. So there you can say that in terms of, again, in terms of education, what have we achieved? We have achieved universal enrollment, universal primary level enrollment. In terms of say higher education, 25% is the gross enrollment ratio. This is something that we have already achieved. Okay, with respect to health also, you can talk about the achievement in terms of IMR, MMR. Okay, and the data is that it was earlier, this gross enrollment ratio was 10% in early 2000. It was earlier only 10%. From 10% in 2000 it has increased to 25%. Okay, some sources of data can also tell you that it is like 27%. So it doesn't matter much, if as long as it is in the same range, uh, we are good to go. Okay, then we can also talk about the achievement of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. How many toilets have been made? Okay, if you remember, it's well and good, like 11.7 crore. 11.7 crore toilets have been made, and also the number is same, 11.7 crore households have got tap drinking water connection. Okay, it is coincidentally same number as of now, so it is easy for us to remember. Then like in PM Awas Yojana we have also built houses. So 3.5 crore Pakka houses have been made under PM Awas Yojana. Okay. Now you also have to talk about to what extent means something yet to be achieved is also there. Okay. Then you will talk about the learning outcome. So when you talk about the learning outcome, we can say that because uh, you can talk about the, I will just delete it. I hope you have taken a note of all these data that I have mentioned. Data is very important. These same data are going to be used in the next year paper as well, in one way or another. And in 1 year time, nothing much is going to change. It's not gonna happen that this is going to increase from 7.8% to 10.2%. At max, it will increase to 7.8 to 8%. Okay, marginally only, like in these many years, if it has increased from 5.6 to 7.8, you can understand. Okay, so you must memorize this data. It would be helpful next year also. Next, we should understand that where we have not achieved. So you can talk about the ESSER report, that still we are learning outcome is still very poor. Around 50% of the students of class 6 are not able to do multiplication. They are not able to read the books of class 2 standard. So the learning outcome is poor. Similarly, in health sector also you can talk about, like for example, or you can talk about the human development index, that in human development index our rank is consistently in 130s. Currently it is probably 133 in the latest report. Okay, you can talk about that the expenditure which was expected, like the new education policy talks about 6% of GDP as education on health, 3% of GDP as education on, sorry, this is expenditure on education, this is expenditure on health, but we are consistently falling short of these targets. Okay. So These are the things that we shall write about, the things that we have not achieved, or you can in all aspects, like in enrollment ratio also you can talk that ours is 27%, which is much less than the developed world, which like even in China, the gross enrollment ratio in graduation level is more than 50%. Okay, so this is how we can conclude our answer. Then the last point will be that how to conclude. So in conclusion, you must always write like the very thing. The first thing is you should not repeat the points that you have already written. So we are going to write something new, something different, but in continuity with this. So we have already written that something has been done, something not has been done. So we should write that the focus on public services should continue to achieve Viksit Bharat by 2047. Or you can say that inclusive development or inclusive growth is must to avoid the middle income trap. This is also a term which is very much in news these days. And it is said that inequality or lack of inclusive growth is the primary reason why few economies remain in middle income trap forever. So if you have to get out of middle income trap, we must achieve inclusive growth, and to achieve inclusive growth, it is necessary that we invest in social services. I hope it is okay. If you have any doubt, please let me know. And you can also take advantage of our various courses, like this is NCERT course that we have. Suppose you have just cleared the 10th exam and you know that you are destined to be an IAS officer. So you must start your preparation from 11th itself, and this is NCERT course which is specifically designed to teach the various facets which are there in NCERT, and NCERT is key to the success of UPSC exam. Okay, so if you want to know the numbers which are given in the screen, you can call on any of these numbers to get more detail about this course. Let's move to the next question. What are the causes of persistent high food inflation in India? Now, inflation is something which is loved by UPSC. Although we do not love inflation, and probably UPSC also does not love inflation, but either you hate it or love it, but you're gonna have it in the paper. And in prelims also they used to ask a lot many questions. In mains also they are asking a lot many questions. So what are the causes of persistent? But here they are only asking about the food inflation. You got to be very careful not to write any point which is not related to food inflation. So only causes of food inflation you have to discuss. So this is our first part. Second part is comment on the effectiveness of the monetary policy of the RBI to control this type of inflation. Again, effectiveness. Effectiveness is always like never 100%. Something is definitely achieved. When RBI will try to do something, something is achieved, but something is going to be left. So you have to talk here also from both sides that how effective it is and where it is ineffective. So two small parts would be here where it is effective and ineffective, and then you have to write conclusion. Okay, so let's discuss first the causes of persistence and what would be there in the introduction. So in introduction, since you are going to discuss in the first part the causes of food inflation, the best introduction is to tell the data, give the data that yes, there is persistent high food inflation in our country. So the food inflation in last 2 years has been, or rather has increased from 3.8% to 7.6%. This is how the food inflation has increased in last 2 years. Last year you must see, suppose you do not remember the exact data 3.8%, 7.6%, I mean you might not have recorded it, but still you must be remembering that the tomato prices are very high. last year. I mean, tomato were selling at the price of rupees 200 per kg or so. More than 100% inflation was there, right? That only. But food inflation has persistently been high. For example, tomato prices experienced more than 100% increase last year. So whatever you know, from that knowledge only you have to write the answer. It is not necessary that this data only you have to give. Okay. The next part is what are the causes of high food inflation. Now the causes of inflation is always from two sides, demand side and supply side, and food inflation causes are mostly from the supply side. Either there is not going to be enough food product in the market, and why there could be a situation that there is not enough food products. There are various reasons, and the most important reason, see, suppose the first one reason could be like pest attack. This was responsible for low tomato production last year. The next is variable monsoon. Like if there is El Nino or when there is La Nina also, uh, either there is less rainfall, where there is drought, then also production will go down. When there is flood, then also production will go down. So this variability in monsoon is also a reason, and our agriculture around 50% is dependent on monsoon. So because of this rain-fed nature of our agriculture, the food production is very much variable. And then we have lack of proper supply chain, because of which we can't store, lack of a storage facility, lack of food processing. If we could have processed the food, if we could have stored the same food, if we had cold storage facilities, we would not have been able to, I mean, we would have been able to eat something when the production was not enough. So because of the lack, because we do not have this buffer mechanism, I mean, I'm not saying that we do not have in absolute terms, but do not have inadequate terms. Whenever there is some pest attack, when there is because of the vagaries of monsoon, when the production goes down, invariably there is high food inflation. Write down some numbers as well. Okay. Uh, there is also an impact of climate change. This is also a very important factor which is there. And here also economic survey is going to be very helpful. Economic survey says that because of the climate related events, the food output reduced by 15 to 20%. There was 50 to 20% decline in food output because of the climate related events, and this is something that economic survey of this year is saying. Okay, here in pest attack you must give the example of tomato. Okay. And then say food inflation also comes because of the sometimes like the government distributes because of the government policies as well. Because the government policy is focusing on because of the government policy, the farmers are focusing on monocropping. Say since farmer producing one crop, then we often experience the supply shock in other crops. So that is also a reason. And then one more thing is there. Normally what happens, as we understand in economy, that whenever the prices goes up, as per the law of demand, the demand should go down. So when the demand will go down, from that side the prices would be limited, the prices would be checked. But in case of food being an essential commodity, since food is an essential commodity, there is inelastic demand. Inelastic demand means the demand does not reduce even if there is increase in prices. And this is something which has been said by Niti Aayog itself. Niti Aayog is saying that in food products, we are witnessing inelastic demand. So even if prices are going up, people are still demanding, so prices are going further up. Okay, I mean, you cannot cook your food without tomato. Some amount of tomato would require. You can reduce a bit of consumption, but you cannot reduce in the proportion of the rise in prices. So that's why this further fuels the rise in prices. Now we shall come to the next part, that is how effective is the monetary policy. So how does monetary policy work? We have various tools of monetary policy to come to control the prices, like RBI can increase the repo rate, RBI can increase the CRR, bank rate. These are the various tools available at the hand of RBI. So you must mention some of these tools also, that RBI uses these tools as part of monetary policy, and you may also mention about the inflation targeting which is given to RBI, that RBI has to target 4% inflation in the band of plus minus 2%. So you can write it at between 2 to 6%. This is the target which has been given to RBI. Now see, all these tools which are available at the disposal of RBI, it tackles inflation from demand side. The purpose is that people should have less money. When people will have less money, or the money would be costly, they will create less demand. And if people create less demand, there is going to be reduction in prices. This is the idea behind how RBI controls monetary policy, or RBI controls inflation through monetary policy. But as we have just seen, see, first we will talk about the effectiveness. So we can see that yes, RBI has been to a large extent successful to keep inflation under check, overall inflation. So overall inflation, which was 6.7% in financial year 23, has come down to 5.4% in financial year 24. This is the same period in which RBI increased its repo rate from 4% to 6.5%. So RBI increased its repo rate, overall inflation went down. However, as we have seen that the food inflation did not go down. So it means that there is lack of effectiveness when it comes to food inflation. So what happens, that food inflation, first thing that we have seen, that it is being an essential commodity. So since it is an essential commodity, there is inelastic demand, and because of the inelastic demand, even if RBI increases repo rate, etc., you cannot stop eating. We will eat at least in the very first thing. We can stop buying refrigerator, we can stop buying AC, etc., but we cannot stop eating. So that's why the demand, I mean the RBI's policies are not able to effectively reduce the demand. Also, the reasons that we just saw about the food inflation, they are mostly from the supply side. So primary reason for food inflation is supply side, which cannot be controlled by monetary policy. Monetary policy cannot increase the supply. So that's why the RBI's policies have limited impact on controlling food inflation. Okay. So what's going to be the way forward? Or rather, the way forward you should be writing in the conclusion part. In the conclusion part, you shall write that probably the government and RBI, should come together to address the food inflation from both supply side as well as demand side. Okay, there is a need for coordinated approach. These words, supply side, demand side, these words must be written in your answer. These are the key words. Okay. Now we shall move to the next question. If you have any doubt, you must not hesitate. You must ask the doubt. Okay. So let's discuss about this GS Advanced course of the Narayana IAS Academy. This course is for those students who have cleared their 12th exam. Now they are going towards the graduation, but they know that their aim is to clear the civil services exam. So it's always better that during graduation itself you start preparing for the exam, so that immediately after the graduation, when you are eligible to write the exam, you write the exam with most intensive or with the highest level of intensity. So Narayana IAS Academy has an integrated course where you prepare for civil services at the same time when you are preparing for your graduation. So your optional GS, all the papers are prepared in these 3 years of your graduation. Now let's move to the next question. Next question is, what were the factors responsible for the successful implementation of land reforms in some parts of the country? Elaborate. See, land reform questions, whenever they have been asked, earlier UPSC asked that land reform, how much successful land reform there. Now it is asking that what were the factors responsible for the successful implementation in some parts of the country. So there is only one thing that you have to study, that what were those land reforms, where were they successful, why were they successful, and why were they not successful. UPSC has no other way of asking, and since this is a specific topic mentioned in the syllabus, it has to be asked every alternate or every 2 years. Okay, so this is like what we call easy hanging fruits. You know that this is the question which is going to be asked. So let's see. First of all, let's understand what are the different, or what is meant by land reforms, and what are the different ways, or what are the different types of land reforms that have been done in our country. So land reforms are basically government policies related to the ownership of the land, or tenancy of the land, or cultivation of the land. So whatever be the government policies that were related to the ownership, tenancy, and distribution and cultivation of the land, those policies were known as land reforms. But well, definition is not going to be sufficient. You will have to write the example. And these are the different type of land reforms. They are like 5 different types. So you can, what you can do is, you can make a pentagon like this, and at 5 of its corners you can write about the 5 different kind of land reforms. Like first is zamindari abolition. Then there was land ceiling. Then there were tenancy reforms. Then there was land consolidation. And in the end there was collective farming. We were talking about the traditional. See, there are some like Land Acquisition Act is also, some authors write that this is also a kind of land reform. You may write it as one of the land reforms as well. The LAR, Land Acquisition Rehabilitation and Resettlement Act. Okay, or like the latest land digitization, which is the, currently going on, is also a kind of land reform. I intended to write it in conclusion part, in the later half part, the latest land reform which is going on, because the from the tone and tenor of the question, it is clear that the question setter is asking a question where what were the factors responsible. So it is giving an impression that it is not talking of the latest land reforms, rather the post independent land reforms are in the focus. Okay, now as you must have studied that they have been partially successful only. Why? Because see, the primary reason behind their limited success is lack of political will. On one more thing that you have to pay attention here. What were the factors responsible for successful implementation? And we have studied that land reforms were not very successful. They had a limited success. So we have studied that they are only they are successful and they were not successful in the rest of India. The question, or rather it is said that the language of your answer must match with the language of the question. So you must answer in tune with the question which has been asked. The question is asking that they are successful in some parts. So you have to discuss wherever they were successful, why. So rather than writing lack of political will, we will write political will. So like in states of say West Bengal, it is said that the political will, or and also in the Kerala, the political will of the leaders in post-independence India was responsible for the success of land reforms. Then you can also say that, or other, second is that the Vinoba Bhave's leadership, Bhudan movement also led to a lot of success. And so you can say that effective leadership is also another reason. In Punjab and Haryana region, this land consolidation was very much successful. So this is something you can, this is credited to land consolidation in Punjab and Haryana, and it is credited to the local people involvement. Rather you can say the community and social acceptance. So because of the community involvement, these were very successful in Punjab and Haryana. Similarly, the role of All India Kisan Sabha was there in UP, in some part of the UP where it was successful, especially in Zamindari abolition. It was because of the role of All India Kisan Sabha. So the role of, you can say, that peasant leaders and some part of the region, the grassroots peasant movements are also responsible, especially I will write it here, like the grassroots peasant movements, especially for example in Bengal, the Bagardari system was abolished because of the movement by the grassroots people. Okay. Or in the Telangana, there was Telangana rebellion which was responsible for the improvement in Tenancy Act. So different regions have different reasons for their localization success. There was no such pan-India phenomena which could have resulted in all these reform movement being successful in at pan-India level. Okay. Then at the next part, you should also briefly, mostly the question is only asking about elaboration. So mostly you should focus only on how it is successful wherever it is successful. However, briefly in the second part you can say that now we have moved towards the second phase of land reform movement. And in the second phase of land reform movement, the Land Acquisition Act and land digitization is being taken by government. So this has to be success to make them successful. The involvement of grassroots people, the involvement of state government, the involvement of central government is necessary. This is how you can conclude. So rather the conclusion should be a relatively larger paragraph dealing with the requirement of making land reform movement more successful. I would advise you not to write anything negative, because the question is not asking anything negative. So why to unnecessarily be critical? So that's why my advice would be to, since it is only asking about elaborating, since the tone of the question is positive, just write the factors which were responsible and then give the way forward for more of the land reforms. Okay, is it clear? Now let's move to the next question. Next question is, explain the role of millets for ensuring health and nutritional security in India. So this is not an economic question. This is more of a science and tech question. This is from the health and perspective. It is asking, and again the directive is explain. So you do not have to discuss or be critical. Then you might be aware of some of the shortcomings of millets. Do not write them. Only write the role of millets for ensuring health and nutritional. In fact, the millets are called nutricereals. Okay, so see all the roles of millets in terms of say nutrition etc. we are going to debate in the body part. So in introduction, you should talk about the status of millet in India. Okay, so you can say that India is the largest producer of millet and fifth largest exporter of millet. So this is how we can introduce our question, saying that India has very good position with respect to millet. Next we are going to tell about the role of millets for health and nutritional security. And see, millets are like these days millets have become fat. Okay, so we are eating oats a lot. Why we are eating oats? Because we want to reduce our cholesterol. So from there only, from practical experiences, you can write this answer. It must be having less amount of cholesterol. So first you will say that it inherently has less cholesterol. In fact, it is not only having less cholesterol, but it also actually it has more of a fiber. It is a fiber rich food. Because of being fiber rich in nature, this is very good for digestion. So it is good for our gut health as well. Gut health means health of our intestine, our stomach, our digestive system. Okay, and the best thing, because of it being fiber rich, it also reduces absorption of fat. It traps fat in the fibers, trap the fat, so that's why they are absorbed less in our body, and because of the less absorption, it helps in controlling cholesterol, or also helps in weight loss. So those people who go to gym or those who are targeting for the weight loss, they very often very often eat a lot of millets. In fact, there is a term which says that its glycemic index is much less even compared to rice. So its glycemic index is 54. For rice, it is 73. Now, what is this glycemic index? So normally, whenever you eat anything which has carbohydrate, it increases the sugar level in your blood. And a food which increases sugar level instantly is not considered good, because it will lead to peak in sugar level in your blood, which is not considered good. Anything which is having a very high volatility from economic perspective, you can understand that okay, even if rupee goes down, it's okay, rupee goes up, it's okay, but if there is high volatility in rupee level, exchange rate, that is not good. So similarly, even see blood sugar level, if it goes high, that's not per se bad immediately, okay, but if it is goes high and low very frequently, that is not considered good, because in uh, in a course of time, because of these peaks, our body is not able to manage the sugar level well. Okay, so this is measured with this index, glycemic index. The glycemic index says that millets are much better source of carbohydrate as compared to rice etc, because it also have fiber. Okay, and this is also a gluten free alternative. What do you mean by gluten free? So there are few people who are gluten resistant. they cannot eat wheat. So since these do not have gluten, these millets, they are very good option for those people to have a nutritious food. Okay. So this is a question which is also good for your health. You must, or rather whether you are facing this weight gain problem or not, my advice is that everyone should consume millets. Some amount of millets you must take, because it is good for your gut, it is good for your health in the long term. And these days we are facing a lot of non-communicable diseases. India is having like 10% of its uh, death is due to non-communicable diseases. So definitely we Indians, not only 10%, it's more than that. Sorry, 10% is the proportion of people who are overweight in India. Okay, so the death due to non-communicable diseases is at a much higher level. So definitely we should adopt millet consumption. Okay. In fact, the protein is also very high. Protein in millets, like in oats, we all know that there is high level of protein. It is 11% is the protein constitution. Okay, they are also very good source of micronutrient like calcium. Ragi is a very good source of calcium. So this is a very good alternative for those people who are intolerant towards milk. So if they cannot drink milk, they can eat a lot of ragi, etc. Okay. And in the next part, in the conclusion, since it is only asking for explanation, we need not to be critical whether what is the side effect of eating too much of millet. We do not have to talk about those things. So in the next part, we shall talk about how some challenges you can talk about, that why people are not adopting. You can talk about that millets are being considered as, millets are coarse cereals, right? And coarse cereals have now become inferior good. So as people's disposable income is increasing, people are consuming less of millet. So what is the need? The need is to increase or spread awareness. When we are spreading awareness, people should be aware of the nutritional benefits. And then you can also write that government has started submission on nutri-cereals. Government also wants to increase the production of millets as well as the consumption of millets. So submission on nutri-cereals has started, and probably the need is to do research to make millets more tasty. We got to process millet in such a way that millets become more tasty. Millets are liked by the people so that it ceases to remain. Like, see, these days people are eating a lot of oats. Why? Because oats have been processed to such an extent, in such a way that it is being liked. Now you can eat a salty version of oat, a spicy version of oat, as well as you can mix it with milk and you can eat it. Okay, so that's why this kind of research will go a long way in bringing millets in the mainstream food choices. Okay, is it clear? There is also a Millet Research Institute, Indian Institute of Millet Research in Hyderabad. You can mention it here, that government also have Indian Institute of Millet Research, IIMR, in Hyderabad. So this research will go a long way in increasing millet consumption in our country. Megha, what is this millet cafe? Is it like a place where millets are offered as a food? Now let's move to the next question. If you have any other idea, you can also write it, because we are very briefly discussing few points only. Not all the points are being discussed here. I will like to tell you about our N100 program. These are the N100 TGPSC, APPSC focused. These are the mentorship program for those students who have already, they are ready and they are targeting 2025. So they have studied their subjects once. Now next year the focus is on more of the answer writing. The focus is on in-depth understanding of the topic. Focus is on generating points for mains level answer, quality answer, value enrichment of their answer. So this program is focused for those people. Okay, now let's move to the next question. Next question is, discuss the merits and demerits of the four labor codes in the context of labor market reforms in India. So as you must be aware that central government has clubbed together the 29 different central labor laws into four labor codes. Now this is something also which must have been studied by everyone. Every one of you must have studied it. Now it is simply saying that discuss the merits and demerits. What is good in these labor laws and what is not so good in these four labor codes in the context of labor market reforms in India. And then the next part is, since it's a 15 marker question, only two parts is not going to be there. There are always or mostly three parts in a 15 marker question. Let's see what is the third part. What has been the progress so far in this regard? So what progress has been made? This is the third part which you have to write. Now can you tell me the four labor codes? So the introduction is simply going to be the four labor codes which are there. Okay, or you can say that the central government has consolidated the 29 central labor laws into four labor codes, and you can make a diagram, something of this kind of diagrammatic representation you can make, and you can mention the four codes. Okay, so one is code on wages, next is industrial relation. This is not international relation, this is industrial relation code. Okay, then next is social security code, and the last is occupational safety, health and working condition code. You can also briefly explain the purpose of this code. Like code in wages, it deals with the floor wage and minimum wage. It also says that minimum wage has to be more than or equal to floor wages. Industrial relation code, it deals with the topics like trade union, etc. The management practices that is to be adopted. So those things are dealt with industrial relations. Social security code deals with the issues like how much is going to be the pension, PF, health benefit, uh, and so on. And this occupational safety, as the name suggests, occupational safety, like what are the health or safety measures which are to be taken at the site of working, wherever you are working. There are a lot of occupational hazard that employees develop. So dealing with the working condition is this code, occupational safety and health and working condition code. Okay, now you have to see all these points that I have just told you is also the merits, that these are the things which have been dealt by these codes. But apart from them, I will also give you some other merit point. First is that this is simplification of labor laws. Now if I am an industrialist, I have to start a factory, I have to worry about only four laws. I have to look into these four laws and say that yes, I am complying with them. Unlike earlier cases where there were 24 laws, I might be implementing a few, but still I might be missing the others. So it is clearing the clutter, it is simplifying the labor laws, so it would improve the implementation. Then for each of these code you can write one or two points like floor wages and minimum wages. These would be fixed by the state government based on the various criteria like a skill level, uh, the inflation level, the cost of living, etc. Okay, then the next thing is that it also covers the gig workers. This social security code, this covers the gig workers for the first time. Okay. Then the next is that even the contractual workers, they have been named as fixed term employees. Those who are on fixed term employment, they have also been covered under Industrial Relation Code. They can also be a part of trade union, etc. Okay. This has also extended that a lot of various labor laws would be applicable only on larger organization which have the employee size of more than 300 employees. Okay. So this will allow more flexibility to MSMEs. And especially flexibility with respect to hiring and firing. Like if your employee size is less than 300, you need not take prior government permission. If a company has an employee size of more than 300, it needs to take prior permission from the government before it decides to fire anyone. You cannot fire anyone easily. Okay, so there is more flexibility with respect to hiring and firing. This will lead to ease of doing business. The cost of compliance of the companies will go down. Cost of compliance will reduce. So these are the various benefits, the merits that you can talk about, that these are the merits because of which. And there is one more important aspect this with respect to this code. This has provided that women can be employed anytime. Earlier, for various industries, especially hazardous industries, there was restrictions on employment of women in night. That restrictions have now been removed, provided the employer makes enough safety arrangements. Employer will have to make various safety arrangement, and if it makes safety arrangement for the woman, it can employ women. So it would lead to women empowerment. See, empowerment doesn't mean keeping them away from the workplace. Only when women will come to the workplace, when they will work, they will be empowered. So this is a changed approach which has been brought by the new labor code. Now we shall move to the second part. If you have any doubt, you can ask. Now we shall move to the second part. What are the demerits? So see, what were the merits from someone else's perspective? All those things are going to be demerit. Like the critics are saying that when you are increasing the size to 300, the exploitation in a smaller organization will continue. In a small organization, there is going to be exploitation. In the organization where employee size is less than 300, how are you going to protect them? And then the differentiation between gig worker and platform worker is very vague. This is very vague. This is not very clear how they are different. And the biggest problem is mostly not in the law, or rather even the hiring and firing policy is also being criticized by the trade union. Trade union is saying that you are encouraging hiring and firing. But all these things are manageable. The problem is that even the government has yet not notified the, this is something that you can write in the third point, to what extent they are implemented. The government has yet not make rules. So notification of the rules is not there. In fact, government has also allowed the a state government to frame rules, and most of the state government, few state government like MP has made the draft rules. Final rules are still not made by most of the state government. You can give example that few state government have started the process of framing the rules because central government has not done its part. So state government are also waiting for the instruction from the central government. So like MP has only made draft rules, none of the state government had made all the rules. Okay, this is something that is there in the to what extent they are being implemented. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. The protection in demerit, you can say that the gig worker has not been given adequate protection. Whereas, like some state government, like Rajasthan, has brought a dedicated law for registration and social safety of gig workers. So, Rajasthan has brought a law for registration and regulation of gig workers. So this is something that you can give an example that the state government are taking their own initiative to regulate the things which have been left by these four codes. Okay, so probably a coordinated approach between center and the state on labor laws is required, and which should balance the need for safety or need for protection of laborers and the need for development of industries. So both has to be there. We cannot be siding only with the laborers, then investment will not come. We cannot be siding only with the investors, because this would lead to exploitation of our laborers. We have to make a balance, that you can write in the conclusion part. Is it clear? Any doubt? You can also write that, see, there should be something like unemployment allowance. Like we copy the developed nation in hiring and firing. Okay, but the developed nations also provide unemployment allowance. If someone becomes unemployed in their country, government for 3 months or 6 months, like the countries like Norway, they provide 6 months of unemployment allowance if you lose a job over there. Okay, so you are never worried. Even if your employer fires you, you are not worried. Okay, it will not happen like where will you get the money to pay the fee for your children or to fill the EMI. Immediately you do not have to worry, you will have time to find a new job. So that's why the companies are allowed to do the hiring and firing. In India, you will not give the unemployment allowance, but you will allow the companies to fire. This will create a social chaos. Okay. Next question is, what is the need for expanding the regional air connectivity in India? When it is saying what is the need for expanding the regional air connectivity, you have to simply think that if regional air connectivity increases, what are going to be the benefits? The benefits of regional air connectivity is the need, or need is the benefit. Okay. And in this context, discuss the government's Udan scheme and its achievement. So, can you tell me, those who are online, what is the need for expanding the regional air connectivity? See, Udan means Ude Desh ka Aam Nagarik. So, this is a scheme which is there to promote the regional connectivity. The underserved or unserved or underserved airports are to be connected with the major airports. Like major airports like Delhi, Bangalore, Kolkata, Mumbai, they are anyway getting a lot of traffic. But we want to connect the hinterland. We want to connect areas like Gaya, areas like Bhilai, areas like Durgapur to the other major airports. Okay. For that purpose, we have this Udan scheme. So, what is going to be the benefit? If there is going to be connectivity, there is definitely going to be the first thing that you will have infrastructure improvement. Infrastructure has to be improved. There, there has to be airport. If there is a flight going on, it will allow the people to commute. So people will get more traveling option. And then why will we do the traveling? They can do the traveling for more business opportunities. There can also be more traveling for tourism. And if tourism and business opportunities are happening, there is going to be more of an employment generation, or you can say that there is going to be economic growth. And this economic growth, since it is happening to those regions which are hitherto not developed, they are not connected, can we say that it is going to be balanced regional growth? It will not be that growth would be limited to Delhi, Mumbai. The areas like Udaipur will also develop because it has a lot of tourist attraction. The foreign tourist will come, it will also can bring the foreign exchange. If foreign tourists are coming, India can portray itself as a global tourist destination, because global tourists will not like to travel in India's trains. Once they enter into India's train, they will never come back to India again. Okay, so if there is flight connectivity to various regions which are famous historical sites, etc., definitely there will be global tourism. So these are the various benefits. You can think of other points as well that are there. Okay, now the second part would be, what is the need for the expanding? In this context, discuss the government's Udan scheme. Now, this is from the question, the learning is that you only did not have to remember the schemes which are recent in origin. All the famous scheme, the flagship scheme that we call, you must focus on their achievement. Okay, like Udan scheme is definitely a flagship scheme in infrastructure. Udan scheme, or the other new the infrastructure pipeline which is there. So you must note down before exam next year that what is the achievement of infrastructure pipeline, how much we implemented, how much is still to be implemented. Okay, so what has been the achievement? So I will give you few data to note down for in terms of Udan scheme. Okay, like this scheme has the mentions that 2500 per hour of air travel. This is the capping of fare. And there is something called a term which you must mention, viability gap funding. So at this cost, it may not be viable for an airline to fly between two destinations. So whatever be the gap, that is called viability gap. Suppose it would have been viable, profitable at the price rupees 3000 per hour. Airline is collecting 2500. The rest of the amount would be given as subsidy by the government. Okay. So through this, Udan has connected 76 airports in our country. And because of these, the domestic routes have increased from 215 in 2014 to 540 in 2024. So it has more than doubled the domestic routes. I am saying here, domestic routes on which airplanes are flying. These domestic routes have more than doubled in India. Okay. Approximately 70 million passengers have benefited from Udan scheme. So if you write these data with respect to the Udan scheme, you will get more marks. You will get the additional marks. Okay. And what should be the benefit? The one important suggestion that you should write about this scheme, that even if uh, there are few routes in which people are still not using this. Why? Because there has to be a multimodal transport mechanism. Multimodal connectivity has to be there. As it is said, it is a famous joke that the airport of Bengaluru has been made in Hyderabad. What does it mean? That the airport is so far away from the city that the cost that you incur for aeroplane is the same the cost that you have to incur to reach the airport. Suppose the cost of your flight is 2500, you have to spend 2000 rupees in cab to reach the airport. So people are not going to use it. So you have to provide multimodal connectivity, means you have to connect the airport through public transport, through metros, etc. Then only these regional airports are going to be lucrative for the passengers. Okay. Now let's move to the next question. Before that, I would like to tell you about our Anugati and daily answer writing practice, where we allow the students to write answer on daily basis, and also we evaluate the answer set using our artificial intelligence tools. And contrary to the common belief, AI tools are very efficient in evaluating the answers. So do check it once on our website. Next, 13 questions. We have left with 2 questions, but we are having less time, so I will go through them quickly. What are the major challenges faced by Indian irrigation system in recent times? A straightforward question. Irrigation, if you study, you will definitely study about the major challenges of the irrigation system. So direct question that has been asked. State the measures taken by the government for efficient irrigation management. Second part is also very obvious. What are the different? You have to tell the different government scheme and their features. There is nothing different here. In introduction, you will tell about the irrigation system. What are the different type of irrigation system? Or irrigation system is that when you apart from the rainwater, when you irrigate the field by application of any other means, this is called irrigation. Okay, and you can give the example of various type of irrigation. For example, tank irrigation, for example, tube well irrigation, and canal irrigation, and then micro irrigation that includes drip irrigation and a sprinkler irrigation. Here also I would recommend you that you should make a diagram something of this kind, and you should mention different types of irrigation. In the center you will write types of irrigation, and here you will write the name of these different irrigation methodologies. Such kind of diagrammatic representation improves the appeal of your presentation. Okay, and then can you tell me which of these different irrigation methods which have the highest share in India? The highest share is with tube well irrigation. Approximately 46% of total irrigation is due through tube well irrigation, around half of the total irrigated. But unfortunately, when we are going to study about the challenges, the major challenge is that most of the regions are not properly irrigated. The total command area which is irrigated is only 49%. 49% of total command area, I mean total area which is under agriculture, under cultivation. Okay, only 49% or 50% of the is irrigated. So even including hand pump, tube well, canal, tank, all of them collectively, only 49%. And the most efficient among them is micro irrigation. This has only around 11% of irrigated land is under micro irrigation. So the share of micro irrigation is further low, and the canal irrigation which is there in India is very less efficient. The water use efficiency, there is a term water use efficiency, WU is water use efficiency, which is around 40%. This is around 40% in case of canal irrigation. So our canal irrigation, or even all the method of surface irrigation, you can write, it is true for most of the surface irrigation. the water use efficiency is very less. So this is the problem. Then those regions also you can write that the land holding size is very small, because of which the irrigation like the small canals or the uh, that we erect, they take up a lot of land is wasted, there is collateral damage, and there is flooding of the nearby fields. So these are the problems that also you can mention about. Okay, then in the next part we shall mention about what are the different schemes, measures taken by the government that you must be knowing. Do you know what are the different measures taken by the government, like Pradhan Mantri Krisi Sinchai Yojana, per drop more crop, micro irrigation fund. This is something which is more dear to me because my ex organization is dealing with this fund. Micro irrigation fund, it has the corpus of rupees 5,000 crore and it is managed by NABARD, which is specifically focused on increasing micro irrigation. Okay, and you can also take the name of some of the canal projects like Indira Gandhi Canal. So some canal projects name you can take, whatever be the canal which is there in your nearby region, in your state, you can write any of the example. Then you can write about interlinking of river projects. When we are doing interlinking of rivers, we are invariably focusing on, like Ken Betwa project you can write. So this is how you will mention various schemes. Wherever you know the example data, you must give it. Now we shall move to the last question of the day. The last question is, elucidate the importance of buffer stocks for stabilizing agricultural prices in India. Again, a straightforward question. This is something which is direct in our topic, that what is the importance of buffer stocks for stabilizing agricultural prices in India, and what are the challenges associated with the storage of buffer stock. What are the challenges? So straightforward, two questions are there. So in economy, the question setter has not left it up for interpretation. Direct questions are there. Okay, and what is the importance of buffer stocks for stability? See, buffer stock what is doing, that why would there be agriculture price? See, agriculture price has been in more focus. The first question was also about agriculture price. So why will price go up? Because there is more demand than supply. Sometimes it can happen, the demand is more, supply is less, that's why prices are going up. So suppose for that point of time, if I have a buffer stock, I can, or rather the government can correct this mismatch. Whatever be the demand supply gap, that gap can be fulfilled from this buffer stock. And if that gap is fulfilled, then we can say that the prices would be stabilized. So you have to explain this part in a very good manner. Because of the paucity of time, I am not going into the detail of that part. In the second part, you have to write what are the challenges associated with the storage of buffer stock. Here I will give you few data. See, the buffer stock is mostly done, first is it is done for the cereals, for which MSP procurement is done, we are only maintaining. So the other food, for the other food products, for example, we have high prices in terms of onion, we have high prices in terms of tomato, we do not have their buffer stocks. So we have lack of storage facility as well. In fact, there is one method which is known as, which involves storing the food grains in open, which is known as cover and plinth method. In cover and plinth method, 30 million tons are stored. this much of food grain is stored in this. Cover and plinth method is nothing, that you are simply covering using some say plastic material. Okay, so because it is being stored in open, obviously it is going to be a lot of food wastage. It is said that 5% of stored grains is wasted. CAG report is there that 5% is wastage out of the total food stored. So if you are storing and 5% is getting wasted, and then 20% is wastage due to corruption. This is what CAG is saying. CAG has said both the things. 5% is infested. This is wasted due to like infestation, etc. And 20% is wasted due to corruption and inefficiency. And this is something which is from the CAG report. So these are the challenges which are associated with the storage. Obviously, in the context of these challenges, by quoting the report of some of the committees like Santa Kumar committee, Ashok Dalwai committee, you can write the suggestions. Santa Kumar committee and Ashok Dalwai committee, like this Santa Kumar committee has said that you should do away with this cover and plinth method. This is not an efficient method. This is leading to a lot of wastage, and you should do away with this method. So that's all that we have to cover in the economy section. We shall be making a few free videos, free classes as well, to discuss about the rest, some of the economy topics. But I hope you must have enjoyed, you must have learned a lot how you can write a very good answer of the economy questions. If you have any doubt, if you have any feedback, if you have any suggestions for us, you must mention it in the comment section. See you again in the next video. चार बज गए ना